Alright, I have never done one of these before, but I wanted to try something out. I wanted to create a full CI/CD pipeline using AWS and Lambda code pipeline, code build, and get some sort of project working. And I wanted to more or less stumble through it. Maybe people can get an idea of one way to go about debugging AWS stuff and see something from start to finish. Um, I have done this before under different circumstances with GitHub Enterprise. I haven't done it with public GitHub. I think the webhook integration is pretty easy, but we are going to find out and we are going to see what kind of issues we might encounter. Like I said, I've never done this before, so this will kind of be an interesting exercise for me as well. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new repository. I'm probably not going to put any interesting code in here. At least I'm not thinking. I more or less just want to get something work, and I want to focus on the infrastructure side of things and not necessarily the code side of things. There's a lot in the code side of things that I could get into, but I would rather try to keep this one on the infrastructure side. So I'll go ahead and open this folder in VS Code. There is nothing in it. And I have nothing in my AWS account right now. I will say though, I have done something similar to this before, and I have it in GitHub. I don't. Okay, there is a little bit of code, so I can probably just start from this. As far as code goes, so one thing I know I'm going to have to do from, that was interesting, from the Lambda side of things, I have already more or less done that in this repo. I'm going to try, I'm going to use this as a template, as a go-to, to sort of kick things off, because I'm going to try to stick mainly on the CI/CD with this video. So if there's much interest, I might just either way go ahead and do a video of how I made this, kind of go through from start to finish and rebuild this template from nothing. I'll go ahead and give an overview of it though. There's an IAM role just to get the Lambda function to run. There's this, actually this is the code I'm going to copy into the handler. I know that works as well. All it does is, after it gets hit with a get request, actually I think this should be, I think by default it's index, so I'll just stick with the Lambda defaults, not get too crazy with it. Yeah, handler index.handler. Uses this role. This is the runtime, the timeout for the Lambda. You can set this to whatever you'd like, but if you're integrating with an API gateway, I'll go ahead and just tell you that API gateway has a default timeout of 29 seconds. I know this just from experience, but it's documented all over AWS as well. AWS has really good documentation. So I've gone to blog posts before and tried to get information about AWS. Some are good. Some of them more or less just regurgitate what is on the AWS website. Some of them will give you snippets and actual templates, which is what I tried to copy with this repository. I was going to continually add to it. I might add the CI/CD pipeline to this as well after I'm done with it. And I don't know how long this is going to take, so depending on how long this video actually is when it gets uploaded, it might be best to kind of speed through it to crank up the playback time, because there might be a lot of shenanigans and debugging that have to go on to get this stuff working. But continuing on with this template, the Lambda function, this is actually the function that gets spun up, the function that gets called by the API gateway. Here's a permission. All this is saying, so further on down, the actual API gateway is created as a REST API. You'll probably see this in this kind of stuff is in CloudFormation. Another video I could do is about CloudFormation, but maybe not right now. The permission is pretty much just saying that this API gateway, which is referenced here, has the ability to call, it has permissions to call this Lambda function, this Lambda function. That's all that's happening there. Then come the API gateway resources. We have the API gateway REST. I'll go back through this stuff after the template gets spun up, just so you can see it in the console as well. What goes between CloudFormation and the actual resources that are spun up in AWS. There's a REST API. There's a resource API, which is the path. So once this is spun up at the URL slash the stage slash the resource, which is hello. That's what this is defining, the slash hello. Then there's the method, and this is just saying that it'll accept the post. It integrates as this is called AWS proxy. It's a Lambda proxy. It's between API gateway and the Lambda function. Here's the Lambda function. All it's saying is that this is where it integrates. So it goes from API gateway, and then it invokes this function, which is defined above. Then we have a CloudWatch logging role. One thing I might actually add to this, I'll add it when the CI/CD pipeline is working, is adding in X-Ray. X-Ray is a super useful tool in AWS. I've been using it more and more lately, and it gives you more insight into what happens and the timing that happens between, for instance, API gateway and Lambda. There is some networking that happens, something that goes on, and X-Ray will give you insight into what's happening there. The CloudWatch logging role and the API gateway logging, this is something you don't actually have to set up every time. You can, it's not going to break anything, but it's saying for the entire account that it has this role, and that it's allowed to, API gateway is allowed to push to CloudWatch. So you can actually log the requests in their entirety when it gets hit. It helps with debugging a little bit, just to make sure that the stuff that's getting passed in is actually what you're seeing in Lambda. I'll leave it on for now, but long term it's not necessarily the most useful thing. At least I haven't used it too much so far. Then there's the deployment, and the deployment and the stage are necessary to actually get your API gateway published. I believe this is a regional, this is a regional API gateway. So this will actually deploy the resources and the method and everything that will allow us to access the Lambda function. It will do that through, I believe I'm on US East 1. Then the stage, it uses the deployment, and this is this stuff looks a little funky. You have to use the syntax to get the logging working for a certain path. You can also there are ways to put in a wildcard so that it does this for every path or every resource that you have attached to your API gateway. This is the weirdest looking thing in the stage, but it's just allowing you to metrics enabled, and allows you to log the requests that come in on the path hello, which is defined here. So that's how all that stuff matches up. I guess you have to, for now, you'll have to take my word that that it works, but I guess we'll find out soon enough if it actually does. If I remember right, I left it in a state where it could be spun up completely on its own and be perfectly fine. So, but we will find out sooner or later. This kind of stuff is generic. Um, the template format version, I don't know if they're ever going to change it. We'll see. But um, that's just more or less a set date. That's just, I'm guessing that's the last time they released this version of CloudFormation um, templates, and I think this is just what everything is. The description will appear under CloudFormation under the stack, so this will actually be there. I'll just go ahead and add that in there, and then I'll just go ahead and tell you that so code pipeline, it's a great tool. I don't know if I have enough time to go over all the intricacies of CI/CD and what actually happens in it. I more or less just want to get this working, so I'm hoping that you have knowledge of what CI/CD actually is, why it's useful, and some basic, uh, just a basic idea about that. I can do a video explaining that later on in the future, though. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and just say we need code pipeline. We're probably going to want a code. We can integrate it with code build. I don't know if I'll do that because I don't really want to focus as much on the. I might integrate it and just do dummy commands, but I don't want to focus as much on the code. Code build would be if you actually build it. So with Node, it's not as important. It depends if you're using packages in your Lambda and whatnot. What I've used code build for in the past, it can get triggered by code pipeline. It's just a stage in code pipeline, and that's where you can more or less build your package that gets pushed to the Lambda function. So if you have extra packages, that's where you would install. If you have static code analysis, you can lint it, you can test it. If you're using a compiled language, if you're using Java, for example, you can actually compile it. I'm not as familiar with Java. I'm assuming that example is relevant. I used to do a lot of C++. I don't think Lambda has a C++ runtime, but that's where you would run like make, for example. Go.NET, I guess .NET C. So, yeah, but code build is where you would do your building. Any build scripts that need to run, that they would happen in code build. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive right in and try to get code pipeline working. That's something I like to do whenever I search for Google. Add in the AWS service name and then CloudFormation. And it will bring up the guide and the properties and stuff that you need to get code pipeline working. Yeah. Lambda, CloudFormation, API Gateway CloudFormation, IAM CloudFormation, all those kinds of things. That'll bring you back to this page, this documentation page, which has all of the services in AWS that are supported by CloudFormation, even CloudFormation itself, and we'll give you all of the properties and the types that go into those properties. I like YAML. I like doing this stuff in YAML just because it's a little less verbose than JSON. But if you're more familiar with JSON, if you don't want to tackle YAML right now, you can use JSON however you'd like. And then normally I like to go through all of this stuff more or less one by one. Sometimes they're required. It'll say like conditional or yes or no. I find that it doesn't always work out that way. Some things will say they're not required, but if you have a certain property, one property set, then another property might be required that doesn't say required. So It varies, I guess, but you figure it out soon enough when you try to deploy to CloudFormation and it works or it doesn't. So I don't think I need much of this stuff. The roll arm I might need. Um, it does say it's required, so I might have to pull a roll arm, um, or create a roll. Excuse me. Then stages. This is the big beef of where the code pipeline is going to require us to add some stuff in. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy all this. Oh look, they even have a little copy button right here. So there's our code pipeline example. Oops. I'm not going to use tags. Tags are available in, I believe, just about every service. It's just a way to tag your services. I guess if you have certain billing arrangements or you need to keep track of what project has what infrastructure, that's a way to do it. I don't use them too much. There's some stuff in another project I'm using that does use them, but I personally don't use it that much. I'm going to go ahead and guess that I'm going to have to ref a code pipeline role here. Restart execution on update. Probably don't need that. Hi, CI/CD pipeline. Disable inbound stage transitions. I don't think I need that. I don't think I need any artifact stuff. I'm going to go ahead and call that good. And then we need a name for this. What? Does it not say that you should have a name for this? Well, under resources, you need to have a name. I'll just call it my code pipeline. And since I know that this is going to have to be created, I will just go ahead and look into doing this. I know I have an IAM role in here. I'm just going to copy these guys out because I know that they're going to be similar enough. Role name. Code pipeline role. I'll go pull a manage policy yarn in just a second. This stuff is probably necessary. This, my guess, is code pipeline. All of this, what this is saying, this statement, this assumed policy document is saying that we want to allow this IAM role to be assumed by code pipeline. I could also add in Lambda if I wanted to, but I think it might be a little weird to have an IAM role that can be assumed by code pipeline and Lambda. I'll just leave it like this for now, and that works. Another thing that I'm noticing right now, this code pipeline role, I'm refing it. I don't actually know the return of an IAM role, so let's go find that out real fast. IAM role. I'm going to make sure that I'm still actually recording. Okay, just making sure. So an IAM role. Yeah, I'm looking at the return values. The return is a logical ID. I want the ARN. So instead of just refing it, I'm going to get attribute ARN. In YAML, you can do this kind of cheeky stuff. I don't think you can do it in JSON, but I'm not completely sure. That should hopefully work. We'll find out whenever I try to deploy it. Now comes the stage declaration. This is the entire purpose of code build. In code build, you have stages. You get to execute certain things in a certain order. Those things are defined by stages and actions. each stage, as you can see, there are actions, there are blockers. I haven't personally used blockers. Then you can name it. So the name, each stage declaration, this is its own object in YAML. I'm going to say I'm not going to use this. Move this up top. This is probably going to be my source. I'm thinking that so the stages that I think I'm going to need are source, potentially a build, or what have you, whatever you want to call it for node. It's not necessarily building it, but installing, testing, linting, whatever. This is where you would put a code build instance. Then I'll have an infrastructure deployment, and I will, let's see, I'll do that. I'll make the code build spit out an artifact to an S3 bucket, and then have, I don't actually know how that works. I've never done it this way. Normally the way that I have this set up, because I'm GitHub Enterprise, they don't have webhooks as triggers to code pipeline, which I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. I have the GitHub Enterprise webhook triggering code build, which outputs an artifact, which is an S3, and then the S3, whenever that specific bucket and key updates, that's what triggers code pipeline. That pulls in the code and the artifact, that deploys the infrastructure, and then it moves on to the next environment. I'm going to try to switch things up and do something a little bit different with this one, and have code pipeline triggered by GitHub. Pretty sure you can do that. If not, I'll figure out something on the fly. So the action type, see, this stuff can get a little confusing. So this is in the action declaration. So the action declaration has to have all of this good stuff. Boy, there's a lot. Maybe we'll start off with just the hook, just one stage and one action. I'll call this ingress. How about that? This is where the code will first enter the pipeline. Yeah, this stuff can get pretty confusing. So I'm trying to remember exactly what all of the stuff actually is. So categories, this will be pretty easy, right? So these are the different categories, I guess. Here we go. Different categories that you can have in code pipeline. There's source, which is pretty much where it's getting the code. Valid action types is where we will see exactly what you can do with each action. So source, it can come from an S3 bucket, from ECR, which is like a Docker repository. Code commit, which is basically GitHub, AWS's version of GitHub. It's just a Git repository. CodeStar source connection, I guess, which is Bitbucket. I've never used CodeStar or GitHub, and GitHub is what I'm going to be using. So I need my category to be, this is the action type ID, is that correct? Action type ID, I need my category to be GitHub. I need my owner let's see, owner, third party. I don't think I've ever actually used this before. Provider is GitHub. Category is source. I was wrong on that one. Version 1? Okay. 1. Wonder if that's supposed to be a lot of times it won't tell you, but it expects all these to be strings and not necessarily numbers. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure about that one, but we're going to find out later. configuration. See, this is all, yeah, this pretty much writes it all out for us, doesn't it? That's under the actions. So, that's nice. I'm just going to go ahead and rip that out. Yeah, so it was supposed to be a string. It does that sometimes. Output artifacts, name, source artifact. This is just something that we can reference later on in the subsequent stages. I'm pretty sure we can pipe that into code build, and we just reference it by source artifact, configuration, owner. Well, that would be me. Repo is AWS CI/CD demo. Poll for source changes. Yes. It polls? I thought it was a webhook, but maybe not. Maybe we can set that up somehow, but it's interesting that it polls. Branch, master, resolve OAuth token. Okay, so this is a cool thing that they're doing. In AWS, there's a service called Secrets Manager, and you can import secrets from Secrets Manager through CloudFormation. And this is how you do it. This is the syntax. It's called a dynamic resolution, I believe, and it looks like a handlebars kind of import, and then it's resolve secrets manager. There are other types of things you can resolve, I believe. My GitHub secret is the name of your secret. It is a secret string, and then I guess it's called token. It's been a while since I've done that though. So yeah, this is OAuth stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and stop this, make my OAuth token, and then I will be right back